Hey there, it's Q, and welcome to Hold and Modify, YouTube's most poorly produced, underproduced Amiga channel. And yes, today I am going to be covering some Lightwave tips, some animation tips. Now, Amiga Lightwave, as amazing as it is, obviously is horribly out of date for doing modern visual effects, but you know, a lot of the things I show you here in this old 35-year-old computer animation software, and by the way, are you still amazed as I am that this is 35 years old and kind of looks this cool still? I mean, come on. So a lot of the tips and tricks I give you in this software are definitely applicable to any current modern software you may be trying to learn. It's just, these aren't about the tools so much as just, you know, how to approach things and little things you can do to make your life easier. So whatever tool you may be using, whether it's Lightwave or not, just look at some of the things I'm doing and see how you can apply it to what you are using if you're not using a Lightwave. So I'm going to go ahead and load up this kind of base here. I'm going to stick to our good old 1701D. And what I want to do here is I want to just illustrate the process. Like some folks are just like, could you just show us the process of you using Lightwave and how you create a shot? And again, no matter what 3D package you are using, pay attention to what I'm doing. A lot of the stuff is the same. So what we want to do here is we have this Enterprise, okay, the 1700D. And what I want to do is the kind of classic, well, you know, top-down shot. So it's the Enterprise actually flying in front of the camera, okay, and we are going to basically watch it fly by us as it goes underneath the camera, and the camera tracks it. It's kind of a, you've seen this shot on Next Generation numerous times, so that's what we're going to do. So one of the things we need to do first is make sure that our Enterprise ship is moving, and as you can see here, it is, it's moving. It's actually kind of moving kind of fast, to be honest. So let's go ahead and go to the view here and zoom out. I just want to make sure that you can see this little star field I have here. I want to make sure that the ship is not going to move out of that star field. So there we go. It's still in the star field, so that's good. And if we want, we can make a preview. We'll do bounding box. It's 200 frames, by the way, just to see how fast or slow it's moving. And as you can see, there it is. It's booking along. Now, this is the preview building process, so this is not real time, folks. You can see it's scooting along there. We're going to hit escape. That's enough frames. We'll go ahead and hit play. And we are doing 30 frames a second. Now, I do recommend if you're trying to do more filmic or cinematic stuff, you should work at 24. But I'm keeping everything at 30 just to keep it simple. And as you can see there, the Enterprise is, well, it's scooting along pretty fast there. Now, one of the first things you're going to do, you might go like, okay, so the Enterprise is moving. That's cool. Let's go to the camera. And let's move the camera. And let's go over here and get the camera up in the air, and oh, there it is. Oh, that's so nice, right? Let's get it moved over here, and you move the camera up some more, and you look down at the camera, and you're just moving along here, trying to get the Enterprise, and you know, trying to get it in view. There it is. Okay, let's come up here and bring it out, and like, you know, there she is. Now, then the Enterprise moves, right? So then the next thing you're gonna do is like, well, I just gotta keep moving the camera, go to the end and find the Enterprise again and move it, and oh, there it is. So this is gonna be a problem because you're gonna be constantly fighting the camera and the animation of the Enterprise. So one of the things you need to do is you need to group these together so that you're not animating as much things and you're not trying to follow the Enterprise. You want to have your camera actually be parented to the same thing that is moving the Enterprise. Do not parent your camera to the Enterprise. And why? Well, if you parent your camera to the Enterprise and then you decide to do something like bank the Enterprise like this, or, you know, rotate it like that, your camera is going to go with it. It's going to start rotating with it, and everyone's going to barf and throw up all over when they're watching your animation. So you don't want to do that. So parent the Enterprise and the camera to another item that's doing the motion through the scene. So one of the first things we need to do is go to this Enterprise, find its next keyframe, which is frame 200, and go ahead and delete it. So now if we go back to the top view, the Enterprise is just kind of sitting there, no longer moving. See it? Not moving there. The next thing we're going to do is go to Objects, and we're going to add a null. All right, so there's your null object. It's a very pretty null object. And we're going to take this null object, and we're going to move it on Z. So let's go here, and we are going to go pretty much where the Enterprise started, and we'll create our keyframe, and then we'll go to the last frame of our animation, and we'll come down here, and there we go, like that, right there, right? So 200. So now there's the path. Now we have our null moving through here, and if we hit make preview, bounding box, sure enough, our view, by the way, the reason you're seeing the screen move is because I'm telling the view to center on whatever's selected. So the view is just going to center on whatever is selected, and we can see it moving through space here. All right, so now you're like, well, cool, Q, you've got the little null thing moving. So now what? So now you want to go back to your Enterprise model. Here you go, Enterprise. Where it says parent, you're going to go ahead and click null. All right. So now the Enterprise is parented to null. Well, why did it move over there? The null was down here. That's because the Enterprise, we had already moved it around in 3D space before parenting it. So now we're going to make sure all the channels are active. We're going to click reset. Boink. And now it will snap to exactly where that little null was. If you go to the side view, you can see it right there. If you go to the perspective view, you can see it there. Now, in some other 3D programs, parenting is referred to as constraint. So if you're working in more modern 3D packages or even other packages in the Amiga, they may refer to parenting as a constraint. So we're constraining the Enterprise to that null. So there it goes, there it goes. Now it's falling along. Well, now what? Well, we got to go to the camera. Click reset. Now the camera resets to 0, 0. We're also going to reset its rotation. Clunk. So now the camera is back to good old, how it was born camera. We're going to go ahead and say parent to null. Click. So now, boom, the camera jumps over here. And if we go ahead and zoom in, so now we're centered back on. So now you can see the camera and the way and where it's looking, which is kind of at the butt of the Enterprise. That's no good. So before we even go to the camera view to see what the heck is going on, you can just start moving the camera here. I'm going to turn off these other channels. You can start moving the camera here to kind of get an idea of where it is into the relationship of the Enterprise. So you can see here, well, it needs to come up. So let's move it up a little bit. Yeah, let's move it up a little bit. And we want to go ahead and rotate it. Now you keep seeing me turning on and off these channels here. That's just for, I want to make sure I'm not adding any rogue data into these other channels when I do this. That's why you see me, doing this. So we're going to go ahead and keyframe that there. Now we're going to go back to the camera view, and sure enough, ooh, we have this beautiful shot of the D there. And if we watch this, if I scrub here, you're just going to see we're just cruising along and nothing's happening. It's because the camera and the Enterprise are parented to that null. So now we're going to do what I call I don't know what the proper word for it is, but it's counter motion. So now that we have the camera and the Enterprise parented to that null that's moving it through space together, now you can start animating the camera on its own and have it do some crazy stuff. And you're not going to be chasing the Enterprise. It's always going to be in your field of view. So what you can do is start the camera further back. You can be like, let's start the camera over here. And then, so now we don't see anything, right? But then as the Enterprise starts sliding in, let's give it like 60 frames, the camera starts moving forward to get the Enterprise into view. So we come here, oh, that's too far, so we'll come back. We start to get the Enterprise into view at frame 60-ish, 58. So now when we do make preview, we'll do wireframe. We're cruising along with the stars, and then lo and behold, here comes the big beauty of the D, entering the frame. And there you go. See, here's the stars. Here comes Enterprise. You can see the Enterprise is moving really fast, by the way. Or you could also argue that my camera is moving too fast. So what we could do is I created that keyframe at 58, right? So let's go ahead and say, ooh, let's create this keyframe at 120. So I haven't done it. I just created a keyframe at 120, but now we're going to delete this keyframe at 58. Okay, so now the camera is going to be in the exact same spot as it was before, but it's going to be there at frame 120. So now when we make our preview, we should see a much more gradually slow, oh, look at that. Yeah, much more slowly entering 1701D. Looks beautiful and grand. There it is. Click play, hit play. So the stars are whizzing by. Here she comes. All right, so there you go. You're starting to get that big, beautiful glory shot. So now what you need to do is keep this going. So now, while I'm in the camera view, I'm going to go ahead and turn all these other channels on, all the channels. Now, you got to kind of freeform it. You got to kind of feel it. And what I'm going to do is just move the camera to the last frame and rotate it down and just kind of go for this kind of like the Enterprise D came in, but we're staying focused on the bridge type shot, all right? I'm going to keyframe it there, and let's go ahead and make a preview and see what that looks like, all right? So here we come. There she comes. The D's coming in, and we come around, and, well, we're kind of losing the bridge, though, there. It's kind of going to the bottom of frame. It's a little weird, right? So let's watch that playback there. She's coming in, swinging around, and yeah, it gets a little out of frame. So what you can do is now that you have that motion, you can come in here and just kind of find out where you're losing it. So you're like, yeah, good, it's good, but yeah, we're getting kind of lost there. So right about here, I feel like we're just starting to lose it. Well, just go ahead and rotate the camera, get it kind of re-centered, and keyframe it. And then roll forward again. See how it looks. There you go. Go ahead and make preview again. Coming in here. Here she comes. You can almost hear the engines roaring, can't you? Picard, Data, Worf, Riker, the boy, Wesley, sitting on the bridge, having a wonderful time. Here we go. She's coming into frame. Ooh, and that looks a little weird though, right? See how it's kind of like janky? Like, ooh, I don't know about that. That's kind of janky.
No, sir, I don't like it.
So what do we do about that? I want to have this come in and follow it. And again, you're starting to get into that situation where you're fighting. You're kind of fighting, the Enterprise's motion now. Like you're trying to catch up to it again, which is the whole point of doing this rig was to avoid that. So what we're going to do with the camera, we can leave it where it's at right now. We're going to go to the keyframes we created. I know it's going to seem like, well, why did you bother showing me this? We're going to delete this stuff. Delete, delete, delete. Go back and delete. Okay. So once again, we should just have the Enterprise and the camera moving together. So what we're going to do is go up to Objects. We're going to add another null. And now this null here is null 2. I know it's an amazing name. Okay, if you click Save, you can actually name it. So we're going to name this null Target. So that's how you rename nulls in Lightwave Amiga, by the way. You click Save Object when it's a null, and then you can rename it. So we'll just call this, I like to call this Master. So there we go. So now what we're going to do is, let's find that target. We're going to parent target to the master. So there's the target. And you're like, why did you call that target? Well, because we're going to go to camera. And instead of us being able to pitch and rotate the camera like this, look at that, see? Yay, pitch rotating the camera. We're going to tell the camera to target that null called target. Doink. So now it's stuck down there. So now what's going to happen is no matter what I do with this camera, so let's do this. Let's go to the last frame. Let's take the camera and move it only on Z to kind of go up. And look what the camera's doing all on its own. It's actually moving all on its own. That's because it's looking at that target. So we can go here, we can go to the top view, and I can go ahead and move the camera over here to try and get that view again. So now what are you seeing? You're seeing that camera. So as you can see, the camera and the Enterprise are now moving because they're parented or constrained to that master null together. But the camera I'm animating separately, and now the camera is automatically targeting that Enterprise for me as the Enterprise goes underneath it because it's looking at that targeting null. Well, Q, why didn't you just target the Enterprise model? Why are you adding a second? No. Well, the problem is if you target the Enterprise, again, like parenting the camera to the Enterprise, you're stuck, with whatever the Enterprise is doing. So for example, in this shot right here, which actually looks kind of cool, I didn't want to start this shot looking at the Enterprise. I want the Enterprise to enter the frame. But because we're telling the camera to target that null, and that null is where the Enterprise is, we're going to see the Enterprise at the start of the shot. So we get this nice, smooth, fun shot here. Let's watch it. Yeah, we get this nice, slow, here's the Enterprise kind of cruising along as the camera flies over the top of it. And that, that's fine and everything, but I wanted to be more dynamic and have this shot start where the Enterprise enters frame. So what we can do now is we go back to objects and we pick that target, and guess what we're going to do? We're going to move it on Z to cause the camera to push that Enterprise out of frame. So we're going to keyframe it here at 0. And then right around, we thought around what, 120 was good? We're going to move it back on Z to get that Enterprise visible. And then we're going to keyframe it. Now, I could keyframe it here at 120 or because now that everything is, extra dynamic and fun, I can just go ahead and say, well, I want the shot to kind of end right here where the Enterprise is about to break center of frame. Now you're like, why do you want the shot to end here, right where the Enterprise is about to break center of frame? Because this is when we would cut to another shot. So we'll hit the keyframe there. And now that I can see what's happening, let's go ahead and push the camera a little bit forward. So now it's not so drastic. So now the Enterprise is not so far past us. And we'll keyframe the camera there. And now let's make a preview. So we're cruising along in space. And here comes the Enterprise, nice and slow, very moody. Oh boy, here's the big gal. And done, we're out. So let's hit play. Here's the stars. Here comes the Enterprise. Here are the engines roaring. And we're out of the shot. And what you want to avoid is trying to convey a shot all in one shot. Like a lot of animations I see when people are first starting out, they're trying to do everything in one shot. They want to show the ship fly in and spin around and blow up something and fly away. And it's like, you try to do that all in one camera shot and it's a mess. The camera's flying all over the place and people again are puking all over their keyboards and mice. You want to make sure that you want to make each shot tell its story and then cut to the next shot. Move on to the next shot so that you can keep doing the proper storytelling. So the point is, like, you do this shot and then you save the shot. You call it like a save scene, and we'll call it, flyover _ S1. And then shot 2 will go, like, say, next, go to the camera, delete any keyframes it has. So now we're back to that. So now we can take the camera and let's go ahead and drop it down. Okay, we'll drop the camera down. So we come here, we got the Enterprise. So we had the Enterprise, in the previous shot, we had the Enterprise kind of, flying underneath us. So we'll go, here's the camera, and then we'll go to target, and we're going to move target over here. And then, so let's advance the frame time, go here. So now we'll grab the camera, and we'll say, all right, let's move the camera over here. And then let's also move, keyframe it, gotta remember to keyframe it. Let's also move the target over here. So now we've kind of got the, the Enterprise doing a little flyby. So let's go ahead and make that preview as the point version. So the next shot, as you can probably see this now, the next shot would be, the Enterprise coming at us like this. So we see the flyover reveal, and then we see the Enterprise flying by us. Now I can tell you right now, this is too long and not showing enough. This is already a mistake. But I'm showing you these mistakes so that when you make them, you understand how to fix them. So hit play, and here we go. Here's our opening shot, and why we're not seeing the Enterprise, it doesn't work. Okay, so you got to go back to your target, and this is where you want to end up. Actually, I want to end up more like here for the camera, and I shouldn't have to keyframe that because I already had a keyframe. Good. And then for the target, this is fine, but let's keep it right about there. And then right around in the middle here, yeah, see how we're losing the Enterprise? Let's move the target over to try and track the Enterprise better. So there we go. A little more, keep that dish in view, keyframe target. And then, okay, so now we make our preview. Now the Enterprise, remember the first shot we did. Enterprise flying underneath the camera. And then we cut to this shot of the Enterprise just kind of cruising along on a nice little 3/4 perspective view, right? And this is already long enough. We don't need to make it another 200 frames. It does not need to be any longer than that. So here we go, flying through. There's the Enterprise. Yeah, and so you get that nice granular control when you use these nulls. Nulls are very important. Like I said, they're called locators in other packages. Locators, Lightwave calls them nulls. And then we're doing parenting and targeting, which other packages call constraints and constraining. And this just gives you that freedom to have everything move together as one, but allow you to then manipulate what's happening as they all move together. So don't just target the Enterprise. Don't just parent the camera to the Enterprise. You want to have that flexibility of being able to move the targets in the master or the targets around and have the camera have its own independent animation. Now, of course, you can see how this can get much more complicated. You could parent the camera to a series of nulls so that you could do all kinds of wacky and crazy things, right? But I'm just trying to show you the basics of the Starship 101 flyby. This is like if I was teaching a class in college, I guess 30 years ago, this would be the most basic thing right here. Actually, they didn't do this 30 years ago. That's why so many demo reels were terrible 30 years ago. But anyway, today, they teach basic spaceship animation. This is, a standard type rig. It's very simple. And there's actually tools nowadays that automate a lot of this, but I'm just trying to show you fun stuff you can do on your Amiga with Lightwave, even though it's 35 years old. So I hope you enjoyed that. That was my kind of Lightwave animation spaceship tutorial. We showed you 2 different shots there. I'm going to go ahead and save this. Here we go. S2. And, maybe I'll do a quick render of this so we can see what they look like cut together. Thank you. Bye-bye.